Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 80/60 rule. This is the Chat 80/60 edition, which Chat GPT wishes they could achieve what we're going to achieve here in the next 10 or 15 minutes. This is an edition where we're going to be joined by somebody who has a certain expertise or knowledge about a particular subject. Right, Greg? So we're going to do a little interview here. We'll be talking to Brandon about youth hockey in just a few seconds. What'd you say?
Yes, youth hockey. I'm interested in it.
Oh, okay. But Brandon, how many youths do you have playing youth hockey?
I currently have two Utes playing youth hockey. I have a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old that both play youth hockey.
All right. So right there, we've got a bunch of questions come to mind right away. Greg, you want to say hi to everybody?
Yes. Hello. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope to have something new here and see if you like it. Okay. I'm sure. I'd like to ask you, Brandon, what do you like about seeing your son in playing hockey? What do you like about it?
Well, to be honest with you, having both the boys playing during the hockey season, we're constantly at the rink, and I'm always seeing something new happen. And the game of hockey is just so fast paced, as you know. It's just they play baseball, they've played basketball and other things, but watching them play hockey, it's just I had to stop wearing my Apple Watch because kept telling me my heart rate was so high. I was so excited. It's also a little bit of a superstitious thing that I was doing, but yeah, I mean, I love watching them out there. It's, the puck's going to get on their stick. It's not like in baseball where they can sit for a really long time and not see the ball. They have to work hard for the minute that they're out there, 30 seconds, and then they're resting for a little bit to get ready for the next shift. So it's really cool to see them put all the practice together into a game. I really enjoy it.
That's a really good way of saying it. What are they good in? If you could say that.
Oh yeah, I mean, ironically, that's a great question because my boys are very, very different. And it's weird how it ended up happening because my oldest, he's currently a peewee. So it's his first year as a peewee, and he has really developed into a really strong forward. He is.
Can I interrupt for? Let me interrupt for 1 second. Greg, did you have any idea that we were going to use the phrase peewee when we started this?
No, I mean, I had no idea.
Okay, so there you go. We're learning something right off the bat.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know if you know this, but that actually obviously it came from the first ever hockey player, Pee Wee Herman. He used to ride the bicycle. I don't know if you knew that.
Right, right. Yeah, I had heard
that. Yeah. He's played hockey since he was 7, and he starting off just really wanted to score goals and do that. And he did. He's a strong left-handed shot, and he gets in front of the net and can score the dirty goals and can, score on the breakaway. He's been doing a lot of that. And then I have my younger guy who is 7 and a mite and first year mite, and he's the opposite. He wants to play D every game and stay back and help the goalie. And he's always going over and tapping the goalie on the head and saying, "Great save." So just the differences that I get to see, it's very cool.
The way you see that, it's like they're really firsthand you're seeing it, right?
Yeah, seeing them develop and what they focus on at practice and what they're doing in games and how they come into the game. Like, what are you going to do today? I'm going to stay back. The other one's like, I'm going to press forward and back check and get on the puck. So it's just cool to see.
How does a coach at that level, let's go with the mite level. How does a coach, well, I guess it varies from coach to coach, figure out, oh, this kid would be a good defenseman, or this kid has got some talent shooting the puck? How does a coach figure that out in the really minimal amount of time they have to kind of figure that out? And also everybody else is in the mix too, but
well, I think that's the interesting thing that I'm starting to find out about. I asked him, I said to him, wait a second, why aren't you ever playing offense? Coach has said he's going to try some new positions throughout the year. And he said to me, "Dad, I just want to play defense. It's what I want to do." I think he's just locked in on that. Whereas some of the other kids might get switched around a little bit. Now we just had playoffs. And so the kids were definitely in the midst of focus on the same position. But with the older one who plays Pee Wee, he's primarily focused on being a winger, with the exception of if they're up big in games, they'll move him back to D just to give him some experience. I think what I've heard from most coaches is they like to have their fastest skaters on D at the younger ages so that they can get back and
Oh,
deal with a breakaway. And then as you get older, they want somebody who, has been focusing on that a little bit more, who's kind of honing on those skills and who wants to do it. Right now, my older one doesn't want to do that. He wants to be on a wing or center. So you can kind of see it in his face when he gets put on D that he's going to do it. It's not his favorite thing.
but he'd really rather be up there. Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
A question I have, just different things. What do you, when a game is lost, what do you say to him?
Oh, that's great. That's ironically enough was last evening.
When I was a kid, I started crying.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's
I wanted
the
to throw things away, throw things.
Yeah, and so I know that
or fight.
He got upset and he was you could see the whole gamut of what was going on, Greg. It was very interesting to me because the kids literally last night was if we win or tie this game, so two outcomes are positive and we go on to the championship. If we lose in regulation, we're done for the season. And that's a weird feeling for kids because they don't really, they're not used to that at 7 and 8. And so what I said to him, I say the same thing to him before games. I say, I just want you to do three things: listen to coach, work really hard, and have fun. And if you do those three things, I don't care what the outcome is. The outcome is what it is. And I did on the car ride on the way back home, I said a little bit more about just the overall season. But in the locker room, I said, I'm really proud of you. Great job. You gave it your best. But one thing I said to him yesterday is no one remembers the outcome of their 7-year-old hockey game when they're 7. What they do remember is being a good friend, being a good teammate, having a good attitude. You can cry and be upset, but you have so many more games to play in your life that this is just going to be a learning opportunity. And what did you learn from today? And he said, well, so-and-so didn't skate hard. I'm like, no. What did you learn from your game that you could do better? And he's like, well, there's a couple of plays. That first goal, I was on the ice and I should have done this. I said, okay, pros do that all the time. The guys could be a plus 13, but they're on the ice a lot more than that. So they make mistakes too. You learn from it and you move on. So just focusing on the growth, because there's so much more to do in this game. He's got so much more to come, and he may end up playing in college, or he may end up going to a beer league someday and playing for fun. I don't know, but I know that I want him to have made friends and learned some lessons along the way.
It's interesting. At my age, Brandon, I'm a little bit older than Mark here. I was not good at anything. I was always like, I don't know if you had it here in Chicagoland, like the bat, okay, and the guy, okay, he's left, I'll take him. That was me. Yeah. Right. But thinking about that, maybe more people should say if they can't make it, like to be a coach or to be a batting instructor or whatever. I guess
there's more of them than there are professional athletes. Is that kind of what you're going at? Maybe they're not going to be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and Greg, it's funny you say that because, I'm an educator, right? So my whole life I've just been drawn to working with students in various ages, and I've coached a lot in my life. And now they have kids of my own. They don't listen to me the same as the kids that weren't my own, right? But the passion for what they're doing is totally different. I mean, I coached junior high, everything, and I was into it, but not as into it as I am here, right? I've worn the same pair of tennis shoes for the last 7 or 8 games for my youngest because I thought that made a difference. That's how ridiculous I was. Whereas my kids that I coached, I'm just like, all right, I have this game plan. We're going to go. And if they were sad at the end, they were sad, but I'd come home and That's it. I'm not tucking them in at night. So I think that's been the weird thing for me with being my own children, seeing that difference, as opposed to like coaching things. I never coached hockey, right? I coach other things, but it's just a strange feeling, and it's cool. It's a great, exciting feeling when they win, and it's when they lose, you feel bad, and then but you have to move on. I think those are all
Yeah.
great lessons.
And may I ask? I have some family members that are their kids are in that hockey, and they're in St. Louis. She's driving them to St. Louis, different places. And do you ever get tired of it and say, what am I? Hey, can be? I remember years ago, my daughter with little league baseball and all that. They say, "Can't we have the slaughter rule right now so I can go home? We can go home." You know,
We're going back to Notre Dame with the younger one. The older one got to go last spring, and it was probably one of the best experiences I had off the ice. Like, we got to go look around the campus, and my older one's like, I want to go to school here. And I said, let's work toward getting some scholarships because it's not cheap, right? So
right.
the fact that he was that enamored by a college, that's an additional thing I didn't even think was
That's a
going to be.
real asset. That's a real yes.
Yeah,
That's a,
exactly. So like, he's not thinking about playing hockey. He's like literally there at the tournament going, people go to school here. I'm like, yeah, it's beautiful and it's really neat. And they get to see that, have that experience. But I don't ever get sick of that because I know going in to these situations, like I knew going into signing him up for hockey, that again, my purpose wasn't for him to be in the NHL. It was to have fun experiences, grow with his friends. He's made some great friends through this as well. And I've in turn made some good adult friends, right? Like other dads that I'm texting about the game, and we're sending memes like it's game day and whatever. Like that's a cool thing that I may be long-term friends with them. And I don't get sick of that because I know that like even if we lose in the championship game or we get blown out, we're gonna go to lunch or dinner as a team and have fun and just
yeah,
kind of keep around. So
that's good. I know with your son looking at Notre Dame now, he can if he can remember this when there's 500 people in a room. How do you know he went to Notre Dame? He'll tell you.
I can tell you, Greg, from the number of people that I've worked with, that's completely accurate. Yeah.
You think they all went there? You know, no, they're just a sister. Yeah, they're surprised I'm an Eagles fan. They say they're surprised. I say, "Yo, I'm from Philly." Oh, I understand now. You know, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
right.
So
Yeah.
is it, Greg, when you say it might be the opposite for people that are from Philly, do you think that they're less likely to tell people that they're from Philly? I feel like everybody is so angry about Philly fans all the time. They're like, they're the worst. You get such a bad rap. I feel like you're a pretty great guy. I don't feel
Well,
like you're.
I'm not coming. You know, well, I tell you, I went to an Eagles game in Indianapolis to see the Eagles Colts, and everybody there was very nice to me. And
Well,
they
wait,
said,
you're wearing your Eagles stuff, right?
"Yeah, I had Eagles. Yeah, it was that." And everybody said, "Enjoy the game" to me, Brandon.
Oh, good.
And
Well,
then enjoy the game, and it was very nice. But after a while, it got to me. So I said, I have to tell you something. If you came to Philadelphia, I don't want you to enjoy the game. You can enjoy the food, the people, the city, but not the game. I don't want you clapping and I'm crying. So let me get that straight. Does your son? Is it just a game? I mean, to me, in sports, it's not just a game. You're out there to win. You know, it's not. It's not. It's not. Well, we had a good time. No, you lost.
yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing that's why we have to. You can't get too high. That's the piece because there are some parents that are saying to their kid, "You got to win this game. I can't believe we didn't win that game. I can't believe you didn't do X, Y, Z." Right? Their brains are still forming, obviously, all the way up till much further age. Like me chastising my older one and saying, "Dude, you look like you didn't skate hard today." It doesn't serve a purpose,
Yeah,
but instead, like if he comes off the ice and he's kind of like whatever, then there's like, do you want to continue doing this? That's the first question I would ask.
that's
Because
good. That's good.
yeah, if they're not into it, if they lose and they're kind of like, nah, whatever, then you kind of go, why are we doing this? If they win and they walk around like they're the best thing ever, though, I have to also say, let's take a step back. This isn't, I'm glad you won, however, let's not be that guy. And
just because you mentioned other sports, and I don't mean to demean or diminish any other sport, because I love, Greg and I always talk about sports is something that in these weird, goofy times that we live in, sports is a great thing to bring people together. And especially like, people in youth sports, what you just mentioned about, developing new friendships and things like that, it's lifelong stuff. What I was going to say is, without ripping on the other sports, why are you so, you know, down with hockey being like really cool? Is it just the speed of the game?
uh, I mean, and I know you said don't rip other sports, and I'm going to focus on football if that's okay.
Okay,
I'm not gonna because I'm not saying like youth football, but just football in
Greg,
general.
if you don't want to listen because he's going to say something about football, put your hands over your ears there.
But I think Greg might agree with some of this. I think that part of what frustrates me oftentimes with football is it. I know it's still a fast-paced game, but a sport where at the end of a game, a team can just run out the clock by kneeling down and the other team essentially can't do much about it. I know that there's other sports probably that are similar, right? But like even baseball, like the bottom of the ninth, if you have to either go out there and pitch the top of the ninth to get out of it in a high pressure situation and save the game, or you have to go in the bottom of the ninth and score some runs to win the game. You have that opportunity, right?
The competitiveness is there at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, there is that where I'm watching the Super Bowl and I'm like, okay, well, wait a second. There's how many minutes are left and how long do they have before they can start kneeling down? That to me is I love football, right? But that to me is frustrating. Then when I compare hockey to that and to some of the other things that are going on, baseball I love too. Quick, you could be down like we were last night, 3-1 with 30 seconds left, and you could pull your goalie and just fire away. You could score 2 goals in 30 seconds. You could do that. You can't score 2 touchdowns and wait, maybe, but usually that's not what happens, right? The team
Right.
kneels
Maybe
in.
if you're Patrick Mahomes, you could.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's one example where he had the ball though, and they were up. So the changing on the fly that happens in a hockey, right? But is so much different. But you could have, it isn't very much a team game, but you could have one person take the game over, a Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard. Apparently, you got to be named. We should have named our kids Connor. Like,
They just had it on Stephen A. I think hitting a pitch is the hardest thing to do.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think especially when you don't know what's coming. I don't want to go down the Houston Astros road here, but I
Right,
think
right.
when you don't know what's coming, I think it's definitely that guessing game of something as simple as fastball versus changeup. It could be in the exact same spot, and you're not going to hit it, right? And I think you throw
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
other stuff. It's that to me, that matchup, base pitcher versus hitter. And my oldest is now a pitcher who has to do that and hasn't gotten to that mental piece yet, but it's exciting watching that too. Not as exciting as watching him play hockey though, to be honest. I know it's an hour, it's done. With baseball, it's like he could still be pitching. He could have one if he has a bad day in baseball. It's a lot worse than if he has a bad day in hockey, right? You can make a couple silly passes in base or in hockey, but in baseball, if you're having a bad day on the mound.
Yeah. Can you have another question if you don't mind, Mark? Do you
Yeah.
mind?
No, we
Uh,
should probably wrap it up, but go ahead, Greg.
uh, in a sport, is there a GOAT? I mean, a guy who is a field goal kicker who blew it. He lost the game.
Well,
Oh, the GOAT the other direction. I thought you were talking about like greatest of all time. So
No,
like
no,
in
I'm
your
sorry.
scapegoat, a
Yeah.
scapegoat. Yeah. I think, honestly, unfortunately, a lot of times it comes back to the goalie. Um, and especially in hockey, I feel like that's why when my youngest was like, I want to be a goalie, I'm like, nope. You have to be a really good skater to be a goalie, and that's important, but you also have to have just the mindset of like the goldfish, right? You have to forget. And I think you got to forget about the last goal that you just let in. You got to forget about the last game where you got crushed. And if your team loses because of a breakaway or because of a silly goal, nobody says it out loud, but that's who they're blaming. Unless a kid obviously passed it in the front of the net, that's nothing you can do. But close games, they're thinking in the back of their head, man, if little Billy would have just had a couple more saves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an entirely different conversation if your two kids were goalies. Meaning, just the dialogue that we just had would have been a little bit different, just because of that different mindset that a goalie needs. And I would imagine the same for soccer, because I see some of these soccer highlights. I don't watch soccer, but I see some of these highlights, and just on a penalty shot, the goalie goes that way, and I'm like, oh, that poor guy, he's going to wear that.
How about the reliever of baseball? The reliever.
Yeah, and that's that mindset of being able to forget it. The fans don't forget it. The fans don't forget.
No, the fans don't. No. This has been a really, really, I hate to say it that way, interesting. I love this conversation. I wish we could keep on going, but we can't.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up. But Brandon, before
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what I literally do for most of my day. And I do have a job, but I spend more time probably with youth hockey than I do with the job. So that's okay.
All right. Well, thanks so for the insightfulness about youth hockey. And Greg, nice talking to you.
Thank you, Mark. Nice talking to you. Thank you, Brandon. Thanks a lot for taking
thanks. Absolutely.
Next time.